Welcome back, everybody. This is the Resistance Broadcast. TRB, the base is open, baby! I'm John. How are you? How's everybody doing? James and Lacey with me, as always. We're going to have a little fun on this episode with a hypothetical. Think about Star Wars when George Lucas made the movie. Was he even thinking sequels? Was he planning ahead? Or did he just get lucky by not killing Darth Vader? Well, what if he killed Darth Vader, considering the rest of that movie pretty much tied with a bow and wraps things up nicely if you just leave it as itself? So we're going to have fun talking about what George Lucas would do if he killed Darth Vader and then wanted to make sequels because Star Wars made $1 gajillion. So we're going to have some fun talking about that. Guys, how's it going? It is, we're in February now. So we have a birthday month for Lacey. It is February 4th. I can't believe it. We are in the thick of things here. Back to this. Yeah. So how's it going? How you doing?
Every year John goes, it's Lacey's birthday, and I'm like, just don't tell people it's my birthday. And John's like, okay, hey guys, it's Lacey's birthday.
Oh, I said it's your birthday month. I didn't say when your birthday.
Anyway, no, it's I'm excited for this discussion because it was one of those things that you posed to us off air, and I remember being like, I don't know if I can really come up with any options, and I was like, well, we could do this or this. Or this could happen. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, this could happen. And then you're like, oh, wait, I've come up with like 4 different scenarios. So I guess it does work out. But it's fun to just kind of like think like, what if?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Marvel's making a whole series about it. So
yeah, I think the what if thing is kind of in that category that like it's so much fun. Like maybe it's not that valuable, but it's fun and it's interesting to listen to. So I really hope that you guys enjoy the episode, whatever we come up with here.
Yeah, I was thinking like, thinking back to Celebration, and you meet new people, whether it's on the show floor or at panels or at the bars or whatever, and just sometimes you have those weird conversations like, man, did George Lucas like plan that ahead? Was he just lucky? And it kind of popped into my head like, let's have that discussion now, even though we're doing our podcast thing. But sometimes those are the types of chats that lead to fun things. And I'm going to approach it from even just a real life thing, like just like George Lucas's anxieties and all that stuff. So I think it's going to be a fun chat. And so we'll see what we come up with. We don't plan, we don't rehearse here. So it's live to tape, and hopefully, like James said, you guys dig this. And then obviously let us know what you think. If you are watching on YouTube, like the video and share it with a friend. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'm not sure if we're there yet, but in time of recording this, we're very close to passing 6,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, which, we're trying to grow that while also growing our audio platform. So do make sure you subscribe everywhere else if you haven't yet, because 2 episodes a week.
For my birthday, I would like 6,000 subscribers.
When's your birthday?
Lacey, can we not bring up your birthday, please? Like, it's enough. It's enough already.
Okay, I'm giving you a hard time.
So before we get into Will of the Force, it's back, baby. Go to weirdbrothers.com. We partner with them, as a lot of you know by now. Pick up the Resistance Brew. That's our coffee. It just confirmed via someone at the store that the store supply sold out, but you can get it online, and that's what is the beauty of the internet, right? So go to weirdbrothers.com, look up Resistance Brew. Boom, there you go. Pick your size.
Maybe for my birthday, get me some.
Buy some coffee, grind up your coffee, and away you go. And if you want to send a bag to Lacey for her birthday, now that we have kicked down the door that it is her birthday month, that's what's going on. But yeah, pick up a bag because you're supporting a small business and, of course, supporting what we do. So wins all around. But now we're going to get into, I guess, more what ifs in Will of the Force. James, what's cooking?
I fear nothing, for all this, as the Force wills it.
Will of the Force is great, John. Love doing it. Before we do get into it, I know we're doing a lot of before we get into the Will of the Force, but I got one more thing to add, and that's the fact that you can become a Resistance officer, one of our patrons, and you can do that at patreon.com/resistance broadcast. One cool thing there specifically is if you join at the $5 major level and up, anything above that, you can start submitting topics for this very segment, Will of the Force, which we are actually it's going to be pretty cool here in a second, because you'll see what we're doing. Before we do that, I want to give a shout out to the Patreon generals, and that those people are Carmelo, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, David Probus, John Risi, Michael Harrison, Michael Gaines, Jetta Rosewater, Bethany, Russ Harbison, Kendall Gellner, Paul Olson, Jake Houchins, Jeff Connery, Oliver Lewis, Dave Hornack, and Val Trinchkov. So thank you guys very much for being generals and patrons in general, because patron in general... Never mind. Yeah, since we haven't had a Will of the Force in a couple weeks now, we're going to go ahead and kind of double down on what we normally do, which is pull a couple patron submissions. And so we're going to go ahead and make all of these patron submissions. The first one coming from Commander Mark at Dekine Awakens. Mark wanted to know...
Dekine Awakens.
That's it. That's the one. Mark wanted to know, will anyone say, I have a bad feeling about this in The Mandalorian or other Disney Plus series? Lacey, I'm starting with you on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they will. I think it's one of those phrases that's super funny, and they haven't really used it yet, I don't think. So it's something they could throw in that Star Wars fans will be like the Leo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
That isn't like so obvious, especially in Obi Wan and Cassian. And I think that this is a phrase they could use that John won't get mad about, like "hello there." So.
That's true.
Well, what do you think, John?
I think the Mandalorian already did it. I think the egg. I think the egg said it right before the Jawas cut it in half. It just didn't say it.
I was actually going to give a serious answer. I was like, didn't Carl Weathers say it? And you just took it a different direction. Suga!
Imagine the egg just being like, I have a bad feeling about this. Sorry about the egg humor. I know that people are sensitive about that. I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool if it did. I think Favreau likes and Filoni loves. Who doesn't love Star Wars Easter eggs more than Dave Filoni? So I think
so much that John's like, I don't get it.
yeah. Favreau's like, that's a deep cut, right? Nope. No. Yeah. I think they will. I think so. And the more series they make, the more opportunities there are for that to happen. So I'm gonna say yeah. Mark, I think, and I just thought that was such a clever and good question too. Thanks, Mark.
It is.
I'm gonna say no, actually. And
womp, womp.
Yeah, no, I know. Now, I think there's a technicality in here, which is like, or any other, like, will it ever happen? I mean, I guess it could probably happen, but I think here, when I took the question is, do you think they're going to continue the tradition of always having the phrase said in the show, like almost like they have to forcefully put it in? And I think that there are certain traditions that, for whatever reason, they break, like Wilhelm scream or crawls and other things that you think like are fundamentally Star Wars. They eventually like move away from them and create new traditions and stuff. And I think this could easily be something that somebody says, they do that in the movies. We're not the movies, and just kind of brush it off. And if it doesn't happen in Mandalorian, then it means the tradition's already been broken and now nobody else has to do it. It doesn't become this like pressure thing where they're writing in the line. So I think they'll break the tradition and just go without it. It's not super imperative.
So you don't think the egg said it, is what you're saying?
I don't think the egg said it. No. Moving on to the next one, we have Commander Michael Harrell, who wanted to know, will Kenobi feature what could have been type flashbacks? Now, I'm curious, he says, I'm curious if Hayden and or Natalie could be portrayed as if the fall of the Jedi never happened. So we kind of get like a what if type of a flashback. John, you're going first on this one. What do you think?
So we're talking visions here more than flashback, because flashback is looking back on something that happened.
Let me explain the fifth dimension to you, John. When there's two possible realities.
I don't think so, only because I think that again goes against the Jedi way, where you're trying to hope for things to happen the way they didn't, whereas the Jedi are all about accepting the reality and moving on from it. Mourn them, do not miss them, do not. So if they keep doing this, what all fans think is going to be happening with Kenobi, like, I understand maybe he's got some baggage, but if you really go deep on this and keep digging at him and carving away the Jedi that is Obi Wan Kenobi, I think that's dangerous, and I think Lucasfilm understands that. At least I hope they do. So I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. And I zero chance you're seeing Natalie Portman show up in this. So that's another thing.
Lacey, what do you think? If you think Natalie Portman's showing up, you're 0% right.
I shouldn't have said zero.
So the reason I'm torn on this question, which is a great question, Michael, by the way, is because in the novelization of The Last Jedi, they start the whole book off with a what-if scenario of Luke having a wife and thinking about what could have been if things went a different way.
That's a good point.
And I know that he's not necessarily a Jedi because he's given that up at this point and he's like on his island drinking green boob milk, but he still has this moment at the beginning of the book, which admittedly, when I read the book, I was very confused. I was like, wait, when did this happen? And then you realize it's not an actual memory or what is currently happening. It is a what if dream type thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm torn because they've already done it, so they could do it. But I don't know if Natalie will show up. I think it would be too heartbreaking for me to see like a what if, oh, everything's great and everything turned out wonderful, because it's too much. I think that there's going to be flashbacks to what happened or conversations that Hayden and Ewan had as their characters in the past. But I don't, like, even we've talked about the Clone Wars stuff. Like, I could see them doing Clone Wars type stuff, but I can't see them doing a what if. I think that would be too confusing for general audiences, because I was confused as myself with The Last Jedi novelization. So that's my answer. No.
For me on this, I think I'm going to go with no, because I don't think they will do it. But if they were to do it, I disagree with John in the sense that I think Natalie could return. Like, I think if they set up the scenario right, it could work. A lot of people go in that direction. She obviously came back to Marvel as well. She said, I'm never doing Marvel again. And now she's getting ready to be Thor, you know.
That check, though.
Yeah. So I think there's a possibility there. The way I see it is not Obi Wan envisioning this, but Anakin himself envisioning this, because we know that his character is generally pretty okay to the idea of like hallucinations and visions of her,
like in the comics and stuff.
So if he in his own meditation is thinking about her and she shows up, he could be Hayden in that vision, and you could see, and you would just have to assume, because they're both older, that this is kind of where he feels like if she was still alive, that would be the current age that they are. So I'm going to say, if possible, I see that the way, and not so much as how you well, you didn't really phrase it that way. You said, will Kenobi, the show, feature a flashback? So I think that's how it would probably happen. But let's move on. Let's do the next one. Major Ben Hatton wanted to know, Major Ben Hatton, will they try to explain in the Obi-Wan series how or why he didn't recognize R2 or C-3PO in A New Hope? Lacey. Why does Ben not know who his oldest friends are?
Hey, Ben. First of all, great question. And great name. I feel like this is one of those questions that, like, I'm gonna be like, no, I think they're gonna avoid this, and then the first thing out of his mouth is gonna be like, oh, I remember R2, like when the show happens.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no, they won't. I think it's one of those things that, when things don't perfectly line up, the last thing you want to do is shine a light on it. You just kind of breeze past it and hope people kind of let it go. Suspension of disbelief. Like, just, we'll ignore that thing. So I'm going to say no.
John, what do you think? Will this be specifically addressed?
Yes.
Ooh. Really? I thought you would have said the opposite.
I think they feel they need to do this at times. And I think they may approach it where he just loses memories of things that happened due to trauma, and like he blacks out,
that's
or
good.
uses the Force or uses meditation to try to eliminate some aspects of his life from his mind.
You make me think of Harry Potter, where he like sucks the memories out of his mind, Dumbledore, and puts them into that thing.
Yeah, probably do it with less physical whimsy, but
I thought you were gonna say magic. I was like, it's the same.
Yeah, no, I think he's gonna use the Force to, through heavy meditation to try to maybe like just eliminate those types of memories from his mind, because maybe it was weighing on him too much. And maybe all the things he goes through and coping with that is a part of why he aged more aggressively than other people. I think we're going to get bits and pieces to explain all of that to help us come to terms with the fact of why it doesn't make sense. And the real reason is because George felt like he had to fan service put R2 and 3PO in his prequels, which I disagree with as much as I loved seeing them. But I think they'll do something, whether it's him doing it himself or just sometimes with trauma in your life you forget things that happen, and it could be that sort of thing. So I think that's one way to do it, and I think however they approach it, they'll do something of that nature.
I don't think they will. I think I'm more on the page with Lacey that I number one, I don't really know that R2 or C3PO. I mean, potentially C3PO, I guess. Possibly, right? No, because he's with Antilles at this point. I don't know. It's kind of tricky. I don't know that they're going to really be involved in the show anyway, so why go that route? Now, I know what you're saying, John. You're saying they don't have to be there to address the situation, and I'm going to say something on that I know we always moan and groan. Here we go. But in the From a Certain Point of View novel, book, they address this. And it was a weak thing, but I believe it was from the point of view of R2, and he was mad that Obi Wan was ignoring him. And then on the ship, once they're on the Falcon, Obi Wan gets a moment with R2, and he says, "It's not time. Yeah. You have to understand." No. And he says, "Of course I remember you, old friend."
No.
Something along the lines. Now, we've talked a lot about these writers and stuff and how they sometimes are putting in stuff that maybe doesn't match up. But I'm saying that at least that feels a little more Kenobi than the last Kenobi we got out of From a Certain Point of View book. So so I don't know. I would say that there's a good chance that someone in canon has already said this doesn't line up with this. Like if you're saying he's erasing memories, but then we have this other thing that says he clearly remembers him and makes it a point that he says he remembers him, then we kind of have this weird issue. But again, I don't know who reigns supreme in all those types of decisions. So John, you may be right.
I'm not saying they need to show up for that to occur here. I'm talking about in relation to his encounter with them in A New Hope, when he looks at R2 dead on and says, "I don't remember ever owning a droid."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
but he also technically kind of lied a little bit about who his dad was. Yeah, like you could still kind of have that little bit of like, I don't remember, and you're like, okay, but you do.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, he also says he doesn't ever remember owning a droid, and then like, is it R4? No, R3, something like that. Doesn't he have like another one in Attack of the Clones that's very close to him or whatever? Need to work on my Schmodown stuff. Anyway, so we're all kind of on different pages. Me and Lacey more so than John on this particular one. Patreon submission, Commander Danny at Semperfi Danny wanted to ask us a question, though. Let's get to it. We have seen Luke Skywalker. Will we see a digitally de-aged Han Solo and or Leia Organa in The Mandalorian, so or any of the 3 spin-off series? So is there a chance that they are going to de-age or somehow bring back a young Han Solo or Leia Organa in either The Mandalorian or maybe some of the closer spin-off series? Lacey, you're going first. What do you think?
I am going to say no. I don't think they're going to have Han Solo show up unless it's Alden. Like, I don't see them de-aging Han Solo. I think it just, I don't know, gets a little confusing. And then with Leia, I feel like it's too close to what they just did with The Rise of Skywalker and with Rogue One, and I think they just need to give Leia a little room. They're going to let that character breathe a little bit before they bring her back in again.
Mm-hmm. John, I think you were actually supposed to go first on this one, but go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, I just don't think that's going to happen. You're not going to get Harrison Ford in to do it, so they'd have to think of other clever ways to do it. And they can do it without him, but I don't see a need there's no need to bring Han and Leia into these stories as far as I understand it. Luke was a little tougher because you had Grogu calling out to the Jedi, and we know the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy is out there being a Jedi doing Jedi things, so that made more sense.
Doing Jedi things.
Han and Leia, yeah, I don't think that is necessary.
They're like having a kid and just being
yeah they have a 9-year-old. Yeah, they're teaching him math and stuff right now. So I don't and he's like, I don't like math. No, I don't see it happening, and I don't think they do the Alden thing because, again, that would be post Harrison, and I don't like the overlapping of
don't
the
cross the
thing.
Streams.
Yeah, so yeah, good Ghostbuster reference. So yeah, I don't think so, and that's my answer.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what your thought on this, Danny, was, if you had like a good idea of like how they could maybe make it happen. Because just on the surface, I'm going to agree with both of them that I don't think it's going to happen for very similar reasons. The only thing, the de-aging Han Solo, like, you're not in Alden territory. You're in like 40-year-old Harrison Ford territory. So it's I get that. But I think the big point here is that Luke was relevant to the story and the series. And I think, as much as we would all like to see some of these characters return, I think like there was something very specific about his return, Luke, that had to do with, a lot. John nails it with Jedi doing Jedi things, but also Mark Hamill not being happy with his stuff too. That may or may not have played into it a little bit. And also too, like I don't know. I really wish they would talk more about this. This is kind of a side note, but I just don't know what's going on with that scene, man. I saw on something on YouTube where they were talking about how Mark Hamill was not used in the scene, and I'm just like, clear it up, guys. Clear it up. I want to know what's going on here.
It is very
so
ambiguous.
There's no reason for them not to tell us. So I think we all kind of touched on this a bit in varying points that there's got to be something in the can somewhere that they're waiting to unleash.
I'm curious if it's an honorary thing. Like we didn't use Mark Hamill, but come on.
We used his voices and stuff from the movie.
Yeah, I mean, what you're looking at on screen is Mark Hamill, and we owe it to him to put him in the credits, or something.
That's very possible. Yeah,
and I just don't know if that's the case or not. So we'll figure it out, guys. But today is not the day, unfortunately. Today is the day to talk about Darth Vader dying. So, John, let's get into it.
Obi Wan once thought as you do.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
What if I died in A New Hope? That wouldn't be very good.
Hey, all right. So we're going to do a discussion now.
Did you make up this whole segment just so you could do that?
Yeah.
No, it's been a while though.
John's favorite Vader quote is "good."
Good.
It's a good line. Okay. So, yeah, Darth Vader famously spun out into space at the end of A New Hope, leaving his fate and status unknown, ambiguous at the end of Star Wars, as it was known back then. But what if George Lucas had killed his big bad villain? Because if you really think about Episode 4, which was just Star Wars in itself, the rest of the movie wraps up rather nicely otherwise. They kill the bad guys, they all get their medals, and Obi Wan dies and says the Force will always be with you. And it really, if you watch that movie in a bubble and be like, hey, there's this movie that came out, watch it, people wouldn't be like, what happens next? They'd be like, oh, they beat him and it's over, and they celebrate
They won.
Yeah. So what would have happened if George Lucas killed Darth Vader? How would he proceed with Star Wars if he then decided to make sequels and had killed Darth Vader in A New Hope? That's what we're going for here. So let's just have a little fun hypothetical discussion talking about what would Star Wars sequels be like. What would George Lucas have done if he did in fact kill Darth Vader and didn't make the fortunate choice of letting him kind of spin off into space? So I just thought that would be kind of an interesting thing to do, especially with Darth Vader just being the focal point of that whole trilogy in the first 6 movies. He very easily could have just killed him. He could have had Han Solo shoot him. He could have had him blow up from the explosion. He could have had something happen with Luke. There was a lot of things that really could have happened when they killed Vader. He got lucky by not killing him, because I don't think George Lucas knew whether he was going to make sequels or not. He had no idea Star Wars was going to be that big success. So it was just one of those fortunate things. And there's a bunch of fortunate things that happened to George Lucas in making these movies that really led to things working out. One of which, another one being like how he cast such a young actor for McDiarmid, so that he could bring him back at the right age for the prequels, those sorts of things. And of course, a lot of things also went wrong, but I just thought this would be kind of a fun, interesting thing to do. And hopefully you out there listening and watching can get your brains jogging and what you think he would do. So my initial thoughts is that he would have to do something like that trope where, well, he actually wasn't the big boss, and then he brings in the Palpatine character sooner, and as opposed to being out there and overlooking everything from the shadows, they'd have to kind of lure that character in and make him kind of the new presence, but probably make him almost more of Vader-y, where he's more physical and uses the lightsaber or something like that. But also, when you think about that, then you're erasing all the stuff like the Luke and Vader moment with "I'm your father." So it'd be a huge difference. But in terms of how he would replace Vader, that's where I'm starting. And so I'm going to get into my thoughts on the psyche of George Lucas later, but that's where I'm going to kick off.
I actually think that Lacey mentioned earlier, she put some ideas. She was like, well, there's this and this and this. And I was like, yeah, I think those are better ideas, because my initial thought is very similar to yours, John, in that there's precedent to this. George did do this in the prequels. He had a really great character and he killed him.
Right.
Yeah.
And what would have happened? What would have happened is what played out is they said, okay, well, ultimately we know where the prequel's going. It's all about the Emperor and revealing himself. He's going to be the major character in the 3rd movie. So what did he do in the meantime? He just gave the Emperor another apprentice, and we probably would have gotten a second Sith Darth character that would have been the intermediate character of the 2nd movie that was leading up to the real big boss. Now, that being said, I think that George Lucas probably would have been like, dang, I shouldn't have killed off Darth Vader, but I have this really good idea of, a bad character being the father of Luke Skywalker. So I think what we would have got is a dead Darth Vader, and the new apprentice of Darth Sidious that comes in the 2nd movie would have been Anakin Skywalker.
Interesting.
It would have been his father, and they would have been able to play into the same thing, having played off of the mistake of not allowing the first guy to be the same person. They would have been like, okay, we're bringing in Anakin Skywalker, maybe a new Darth name or whatever, but then it maybe potentially would have played out very similarly, but Darth Vader would have just existed in the bubble in the same way that Darth Maul existed in the bubble, and he really didn't have anything to do with the prequels as a whole. So I don't know in reality how much would have changed, but I like that if you move away from the idea of the father and son, because that got squashed, then you start running into possibilities that Lacey brought up, and now she can go and run into some of those, where it gets into like, okay, well now what, Yeah. That stuff never happened, so what does Luke do? Yeah, which is cool. What do you think, Lacey?
Every once in a while, like, I'll see or read something or hear something, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why they made that decision, or that's why they did that. And you just saying that Darth Maul thing, and you were like, well, it's the guy, and then he dies, and then Palpatine was there all along. And I was like, wait, that happened in every trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Or like the other day it happened to me where I was
Like, JJ, you don't
online.
understand Star Wars. And he's like, there's no other way to understand Star Wars. That's Star Wars. That's all that
He
exists.
was always there. It just reminds me the other day. It's like, I'm sure everybody has these moments. You just feel dumb because you're like, oh, yep, that makes sense. And then like there's a poster or something on Twitter for the Skywalker saga, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, Rey's on the cover of this. Oh, yep, Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
She takes the name. All right. Because going into the Rise of Skywalker, right? A lot of us thought that it wasn't Rey, it was someone else, and then whatever. I digress. So anyway, Darth Vader dying. Yeah, so when you kind of posed this, John, I was thinking of like, okay, well, what would be the next step? The next step would be similar to what you guys said, which is, first of all, Star Wars has a villain problem. Second of all, that they would have to bring in someone else. There would have to be a second apprentice. Like, oh, but the real bad guy is this guy. Like, that would have to be or it could be like, I mean, they've done this on so many TV shows and movies. It's like, he didn't really die. He somehow escaped.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did he die, John? Are we talking full-on explosion, or somebody saying, good thing that Darth Vader guy
I
just
think-
flew
I
off
think
into
for-
space?
Yeah, I think for the sake of the argument, he blew up into stardust.
Yeah.
Okay,
Dunzo.
so it's, like, clearly
He's
dead.
dead.
Luke drops
So-
behind him, blasts his
Yeah,
ship, and then
explodes.
blows
Luke
up
And he
the
goes,
Death
hits the
Star.
brakes.
nope.
He flies right by, gets missile lock, and blows him
Yeah.
away. Yeah.
Got it. All right. So anyway, but then I got into like something probably a little bit more interesting to me anyway, which is that family dynamic, which would be that we don't know it yet, but Leia is Luke's sister. But the idea that what if one of them fell to the dark side and then worked with Palpatine through the rest of the series? That then the last movie wouldn't be Luke versus Vader, it would be Luke versus Leia or Leia versus Luke. Those things always intrigued me when people brought up either fan art or, you know, fan fiction or something where that happened instead. It always intrigued me because I was like, man, that would be really cool if they had Leia fighting Luke at some point, because she
That's
doesn't realize her
interesting.
powers
When
until...
when Leia hears Luke say that news, she retracts from it. Like,
Right.
she wants to reject it. So it's cool because do you think like that's almost part of Lucas understanding how somebody might take that information and how it could turn, like, it was kind of, it wasn't given naturally to Luke. He probably took it worse, but
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, he almost was okay with it at that point and had come to terms with it. But when she heard it, that you could easily make her someone who says like, no, you know, this is all messed up. My whole life's,
And it
I used
could-
to be a
right.
princess.
And it could be an intriguing story where Luke falls to the dark side, and then Leia, who originally was like, no, I'm not getting involved, has to get involved.
Oh,
she
yeah,
has to step up. But then there's all the other side that's really cool too, where what if she, you know, something traumatic happens to her, obviously her planet explodes. So that drives her to the dark side.
Did she
That
lose
would be super
anybody?
interesting.
Everybody, John.
Sorry, Paul.
But those two ideas are super interesting to me, only because
Yeah, that's cool.
we clearly see hints of both of those things, even in the Rise of Skywalker with the Leia training scene where she's like, no, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So I think those are easy things they could have explored if this didn't happen, if Vader didn't survive.
Yeah, I think, especially, you know, considering he, you know, had Lee Brackett write an Empire, and then she died, and Kasdan came in and wrote it. You know, the fact that he had other writers, I think, would have helped him find his path. But, and if you think about the rest of A New Hope, you have Obi Wan saying a young Jedi named Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine before he turned evil, betrayed and murdered your father. That's still there. So as far as we understand it, Vader killed Luke's dad.
Oh, that's
But-
true.
Yeah. But you know, do you play the thing where Obi-Wan knew it was this other guy, but why would he
Yeah.
need to say that? Why wouldn't he just say, yeah, it was that guy? who you're gonna see in the next movie. So
whereas now he hides it a little bit.
Yeah,
He's
that,
like,
so
obviously I
that
can
gets
tell
a
you.
little muddled, but it could be, you know, an interesting thing where they pull a twist on us and they're like, yeah, he killed your father, but you know, there were a bunch of us who killed your father. Like it was like this whole, we all turned on him, and I was the one who did the final blow. I'm the one who stuck the blade through his chest, and I'm the new apprentice. And you know, if you thought Vader was bad, then they could, you know,
kind of
go
like a
that
Knights
angle.
of Ren type scenario.
Yeah, or just like you thought Vader was bad. I'm the one who's gonna take over from Palpatine or something. And just
And
introduce
then
this new
Darth
bad
Maul
guy.
returns again.
Yeah, yeah, right. But you know, you can't. I don't think that they wouldn't be able to do the father thing anymore.
Which is, I would say, probably the central theme. Which is,
Yeah, or
Well,
like
I initially
it'd be
thought you're right that he does say he betrayed and murdered your father, so his father's dead. So that squashes my theory before, but it doesn't necessarily, because he could show up and be like, "I'm your father," and he's like, "But Obi-Wan told me Vader killed my father," and he's like, I mean, they could just write that away. You could be like,
Yeah, that is true. That's true. Actually, now that you mention that, maybe that could be a play, like this big twist.
yeah,
Like, yeah, they said Vader killed your father. Like,
well, Obi-Wan killed your father. Don't remember that was the line, right?
yeah, right.
So it's like,
no, yeah,
I mean,
the original line was Obi-Wan killed your father.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I mean, maybe there's a play there where it's like that was steaming around in George's head for the second movie, and maybe Obi-Wan was this, like, we don't know his whole story kind of thing. But then down the line, he decides that maybe it's better that Vader
That's
is
that's
this
kind of
other
interesting.
thing.
That's kind of interesting what you said, because what if Obi-Wan wasn't lying, and what if he actually thought that's what happened, that this guy killed Anakin, but
Mhm.
what really happened was they abducted him and lured him to the dark side, and Obi-Wan didn't know that. He thought Anakin died or something.
Yeah, because he
That
spoke to
could
Vader one
be-
time, and Vader was like, "I killed that guy." And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that tracks
Mm.
Sith wise.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
He's like,
that could be.
Then you'll die too.
Yeah, so yeah, you could have
They'd
Anakin.
have to explain his name though, because his name is Darth Father.
No, but he wouldn't be the father anymore. This other guy would. So Vader,
Mm.
yeah, Vader wouldn't be Anakin. That's
so
interesting.
Vader wouldn't be the father, but his name would be Father.
I mean,
Well-
you're doing the Dutch thing. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know how.
yeah.
He's like, I just always wanted to be a
I
dad.
don't, and honestly, I don't. That was proven that Lucas didn't even make that connection. Like,
It's just funny.
Yeah,
Just-
'cause-
just
'cause
laugh
we-
at the joke, John. It's okay. You can just
I know,
laugh
but
at it.
you're trying to really connect it, and it's driving me
I'm
nuts.
not really. I'm just joking.
I don't know. I've lost my train of thought. There's so
Well,
many options this thing could go.
Well, we started to go down a path of like, would George Lucas have written Obi-Wan to be the bad guy? Like maybe in the second movie, the plan was that somebody shows up and reveals to Luke that Obi-Wan was in fact the one that killed his father, and it wasn't Vader. And Vader, I don't know, you could have wrote a weird sob story for Vader too. They've been like, well, Obi-Wan killed your father. Vader and your father used to be really good friends, and then, or something. I don't know how they would play that. Like, well, why did my dad's friend become like this?
Oh, the best
The
friend
bad-
type thing.
Yeah, or something.
Or a brother.
I don't know, but my point is like, maybe there is something to the like Obi-Wan was the bad guy, and then Luke struggles with that for a while. Maybe Obi-Wan shows back up and he's like, what the heck, dude? Like, why did you do that? And he has to like explain, well, like sometimes when you're a Jedi, you have to kill people for the righteous reason and stuff. And
I
that
think
just
what
like
makes that
messes
tough-
up his whole journey of like why he wanted to become a Jedi in the first place, because he thought they were so noble. And it turns out Obi-Wan, the guy he trusted so much, is the one that killed his father. It's like messed up.
Dun dun dun.
Dun 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 dun. That's Sports Center. Sorry.
You've been watching a lot of sports lately. You've been doing that ESPN thing.
No, I did it for patrons, admirals, and generals who would get the joke.
The Obi-Wan thing's I think not possible to do, because Obi-Wan helped Luke destroy the Death Star, and if he was part of the bad side, he wouldn't help him do that.
He's saying that he did it in the old days, he
Yeah.
was the bad guy.
Yeah.
And that he's now the good guy, but he's done terrible things.
Oh, okay. I misinterpreted that. Okay.
I mean, look, like at the end of the day, you could play it any way you want. But I think what I was coming from is the potential that he's like, yeah, I didn't want to tell you, but your dad kind of sucked, and I had to kill him.
Your dad kind of sucked. Imagine that being the line.
That's
Your dad kind of
rough.
sucked.
That's cold.
Like if
Straight up.
Dear Luke,
That
your
dude
dad
sucked.
kind of sucked.
like if a bunch of dudes from like just Jersey wrote Star Wars, they're like, bro, or whatever.
Bro.
Yeah.
That makes me think of the radar technician thing.
Oh,
Dude,
yeah.
Matt sucks.
Matt
Straight up sucks.
Yeah.
Straight up. he straight up
Was that Bobby Moynihan that says
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, please come on the show.
Bobby. Let's talk about that.
Bobby.
Yeah.
It's man, it's so tough. I don't like. He would have a hard time making this work if he killed Vader. That's what it comes down to. Like,
I think we're coming up with good ideas.
Yeah, but if you think about what really happened, I mean,
John's saying our ideas straight up suck.
Yeah.
Well, no. Do I think George Lucas is a better storyteller than TRB?
How dare you?
I mean,
I-
you're right. Like that twist, that moment, everything, it's gone down as history as probably one of like the best films ever made.
Because then there's
like,
no
there's
prequels
no
argument,
and like you
yeah.
have to, yeah.
But it
doesn't
does
become
make
the
me-
Anakin Skywalker story.
It
yeah.
does make me wonder that what the point of this discussion is, if for whatever reason, dang it, I back myself into a corner, what does the guy who wrote the best movie, or didn't write, but you know what I mean, put together the best movie ever, then come up with,
He quits. He's like, I'm done.
What's provocative about it is when they made Star Wars, Darth Vader was just Darth Vader. So everything that we see on film and everything he says to Obi Wan is literal and real. And what Obi Wan says about Darth Vader killing Luke's father is real, and that's what was all how the story was. And then he decided to make him his father after. So I do like the idea that if he did kill him, then Darth Vader is just Darth Vader. He's not this guy who was good and then turned bad. He's just this bad dude. And to think about that for just a moment in a vacuum is kind of interesting.
He's
then you
Maul,
just had this
basically.
really evil person.
Or
yeah.
Moff Gideon, yeah.
But even Maul had got redemption.
Well,
Like,
later, but I'm saying
Yeah.
movie-wise, well, not even later movie-wise, he shows up, but make Solo 2 happen.
Maul just shows up in every movie now.
Yeah.
That's the new special edition. It's just Maul continually showing
Maul's
up.
Yeah.
Kenny from South Park. He just keeps popping up.
Poe Dameron, like
Everyone's
somehow Maul's returned. Like,
Again.
Leia's like always in the shadows from the beginning.
yeah, from the beginning.
They digitally replaced Palpatine with Maul just hanging from the chair with his robot legs.
Yeah,
She doesn't say from the
Dangling.
beginning. She says always in the shadows from episode 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing to think about because he just like when you take him out, it erases. It's like the Back to the Future photo. It erases the prequels. It erases everything that happens after it, and then you have to think like, what would he have done? And then I start thinking about George Lucas and his like mentality, knowing that he had this juggernaut movie that he didn't think was going to do well, and then it does well, and he's like, well, I got to make a sequel. I want to tell more of the story. And I kind of had an idea of what Luke Starkiller was going to do and all this stuff, and you would have to think he'd be sitting there like, why did I freaking kill that guy? Oh man, why did I kill that guy? And why did I kill him so hard? Like Darth Vader explodes into literal dust, and there's just no way to bring him back. Not even like Thanos.
Well,
And it's just like, what do you do?
I got a question for you, John. Who ultimately is making this decision right here? Is this George Lucas? Like, how am I going to bring him back? Or does he go, so we killed off Darth Vader in the last one. What are you going to do, Larry?
Yeah, so it's
So
It's
is this
George, like-
Lawrence Kasdan making the decision?
No, because George wrote the story, and he wrote like the treatment, and he knew where he wanted the story to go, and he knew he had to bring in Yoda or the Yoda character, which was called like Minch or something first, because he needed a replacement for Obi Wan, and he didn't want it to be a human and all that stuff. So he had all those things in place, and then he just had someone who knew how to write dialogue better and write relationships better, write his script for him. Which brilliant move. If you watch Attack of the Clones, thank you. That's some rough dialogue by George Lucas in that movie. But it's who makes that
According
decision?
to him,
It's
you don't
George.
understand Star Wars, John.
According to George Lucas?
He said that recently, yeah. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
He was like,
He's
the dialogue, it's supposed to be like
he's
that.
Very,
and
he's still, I feel like he's still so jaded by the
he's
reactions.
still
to the
holding
prequels.
on.
Let go!
George Lucas is giving talks, and he's like, yo, the fans straight up suck.
Yeah. I want George Lucas to do a TED Talk.
Yeah.
George could come out and make it emphatically clear, I am never coming back to direct Star Wars. But he likes seeing fans say, we want George, we would love George to come back. He probably likes seeing that fans.
Of course,
still want
after
him.
the way people treated him, yeah, sure.
So he could, like, I bet Kathleen Kennedy's like, George, can you do us a solid and just like make a statement that, you moved on and you're done? He's like, no.
He's like, hey, Katie, I'm gonna need a latte.
It's like once
we do it. Yeah, we do always see him with the Starbucks cup. Who's getting it? Kathleen Kennedy's the one getting it for him?
She's like, it's Kathy.
It's like once a week in her office, you see her on the phone. She's like, hey, George, I just wanted to check. No, sorry, nope. Okay, yep, just double checking. All right, bye.
Okay, yep.
It's like
do you still have the
same
chess
thing.
pieces? Yes, okay. And then Kathleen Kennedy goes to Starbucks, and she's like waiting in line, and they're like, latte for Connie. She's like, and she sends her sister to go get the coffee, who's the teacher. Her twin sister to go get George Lucas's coffee.
Are you Kathleen Kennedy? I'm Connie.
I'm Connie. Yeah. If I was Kathleen Kennedy, I would do that. If people recognize me in public, I'd be like, oh, I get that a lot. I'm actually Connie. I have nothing to do with Star Wars. I'm sorry. And it's really Kathleen Kennedy. She's like, thank God I have a twin sister, because I could use that move all the time. Like, if you were famous and had a twin who wasn't famous, wouldn't you play that card all the time?
Who have they parent trapped? That's what I want to know. You've done it at least once.
Yeah.
If you're a twin.
True.
In a weird thing, I was sitting there thinking, how could you, like, if you believe that Kathy was playing that joke, that she was pretending to be her sister, where could you pin her? And I was like, probably at a Star Wars movie premiere. Like, of course it's going to be Kathy there, and not. And I'm like, no, she was there. Connie was there.
Yeah.
And I could imagine being like a fan coming up and being like, Kathleen Kennedy, and she's like, actually, I'm Connie, and they're like, all right, rude. Like, trying to lie to me.
Right.
Trying to lie to me right now. She's like, no, I swear, I'm a twin, and it's my sister. They're like, you're
I
a
didn't
jerk.
even know. Yeah, I didn't know she had a twin until not that long ago. So that
Rise of Skywalker premiere.
Yeah.
She showed up with her sister.
if she pulled that, like, a lot of people would probably just be like, wow, that's what you just made up. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
She parent traps George Lucas.
Yeah. I don't know if I have anything else. Like, it was a interesting hypothetical. I don't know if I have anything else on, what they could have done. I think we touched on a lot of the points. Do you guys have anything else? We went on a tangent, which I thought was a beautiful tangent. So
No. I'm good. I feel like you can wrap this up, John, if you want.
yeah, James, anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think my initial point just kind of stands. I think they would just play it off like the Maul kind of thing. Like, yeah, he was who he is, and the next movie just has a different bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the
Yeah.
reality of it.
Yeah, I did end up liking that idea that, it could still be Anakin being the second one.
Oh, actually, here's another aspect of that. They probably would have done that, and then people would have been like, not as good as Darth Vader, Pan, and
Yeah.
Star Wars just ends. Like, they did a second movie, was not as good, failed, and that was it. It's done.
And then George does a serialized version for his to end it with, like, Return of the Jedi, and it's like a straight to TV Saturday matinee thing. Yeah.
It's a holiday special.
Yeah, who knows? That's true. Star Wars could have been not good. Yeah. Interesting. It's interesting to think about. I mean, glad it didn't happen. But Yeah. So let us know what you think about the hypothetical situation. What do you think that George Lucas would have done? Would Star Wars would have failed like James just pointed out? Would they have made Obi-Wan the bad guy? Would they have brought in Anakin in a different way? Jog your thoughts and let us know in the comments.
How does Jar Jar Binks play into all this?
That's true. We didn't bring that up. So we have to have the conversation again.
I mean, everything relies on Jar Jar Binks.
Right. But yeah, let us know what you think on that, and hit us up on Twitter also at RBATSWNN, like a bunch of you did just now. In the next segment, we're going to get into here. So hopefully you brought your A games in Resistance Transmissions. Lacey?
All right, guys, it's time for Resistance Transmissions. So every week on Twitter at RBATSWNN, John puts up a crazy, wacky situation, and you guys give your answers. And I don't know what the scenario is, I don't know what you answered, and we see how this goes. It's kind of chaotic, but I love it. I woke up and chose chaos. All right. So first, we have the scenario. Scenario is K2SO is a real actor and was informed he didn't land a part in hashtag Star Wars, hashtag Andor for hashtag Disney+.
You don't have to say the hashtag. I pasted it from Twitter.
He needs to find work. What does K2 do to make ends meet until he can find his next acting gig? Is this about to be a Porg scenario?
I almost took it. I almost went back and took it verbatim, the copy from the last one.
What does K2 do to hashtag make ends meet, right?
Right. Yeah.
All right. First up is Riley Lennon Ness at NessArt94. Hi, Riley. Riley said, best criminal cross-examiner in the biz. Quote, I find that answer vague and unconvincing.
I think he'd be tough, yeah.
I just watched Night Stalker on Netflix, and I agree, like, I find that answer vague.
He gets a gig on CSI Miami or something.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got sunglasses and, like, a Miami shirt, but, like, no pants.
Red hair.
Anyway.
And his catchphrase is "Shut up, you!" Like he smacks people.
Every Thursday, 8 p.m.
Is that show any good? Night Stalker, whatever.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
it's so
Is it a documentary or is it a fiction?
It
show?
is.
Oh, it is.
It's a documentary about the two detectives and basically almost 200 days they spent trying to find a serial killer.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay.
It is insane. And it's like kind of like a time capsule of the 80s and like how things were back then.
Oh, so it's like Wonder Woman 1984.
Not at all. actually relevant. All right. So next is OT
It's
Nick.
just a trash can.
This is Nick.
It's just a trash can.
Hi, Nix. Nick said, K2SO joined the droid rights movement for about 5 minutes, then had to depart because L337 speeches got on his nerves, so he detoured to Coruscant to hit up the droid spa for an oil bath that feels so good that he'll just wait it out until his next work gig comes.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
I think we talked about this once on the show, and I was like, they would never get along. K2 and L3.
No.
Oh, it was like who's the sassiest or something.
Yeah. Next is Jim Corbett at JCorb3TT83.
What's up, Jim?
Hey, Jim. Jim said he helps intergalactic space doctors break bad news to patients. And loved ones as a bedside manner droid. The results are not good.
You got fired.
I need a reread on that one.
Oh my god. All right. He helps intergalactic space doctors break bad news to patients and loved ones as a bedside manner droid. The results are not good.
That he would be the worst. Yeah.
Oh man, that might be a Hall of Famer for me. That is clever.
Congratulations, you're dying of cancer.
You know, like, you know when like Dwight tells Angela that Sprinkles is dead?
Yes.
He's like, how? And she's like, how do you look? Really dead.
Really dead.
Like, just like no sympathy. Yeah.
Next is Joey Sack at Joey Sack. Hey Joey. Joey said he becomes a movie theater usher who shushes movie talkers the only way he knows how. Quiet. And there's a fresh one if you mouth off again.
Yeah.
I'd hire him.
Next is Frank Grande at Frank Grande 3. Thanks, Frank. He said he becomes a Walmart greeter. K2SO. I'm welcoming you to the Walmart because the captain said I had to. These are good. Next is Mark at Dekine Awakens, _Kine _Awakens, aka Dekine Vakens.
Big episode for Mark today.
I know. Mark said, K2SO, Saw Gerrera, I didn't get the part in Andor. May I stay here with you until things turn around? Saw, lies, deception. K2SO, no, I know Kathleen Kennedy announced I would be back, but it's not happening. Saw, every day more lies. K2SO, no, really. Saw, Borgullet. I hate Borgullet.
Would Borgullet work on a droid?
No, it would just make him, he'll be like, what is it? Oh.
Yeah.
Next is Radio Rebellion at Radio Rebel Pod. What's up, guys? And they said, bagging groceries at a nearby supermarket, but gets fired because he dropped the bags as soon as he got to the car. That was all Alan Tudyk, by the way.
Yeah.
That
Drops
part
the
where
book
he drops
bag.
the backpack.
Yeah.
Backpack, yeah. And last but not least is Alex Zukas at Zubaka. Hey, Alex. Alex said, K2SO lands a gig replacing Maury from his daytime TV show. K2SO. There's a 97.6 chance that you are not the father.
I like that one.
It was good. I think Jim Corbett should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, really?
He helps intergalactic space doctors break bad news to patients and loved ones.
I think that was
very good.
I think that was the best one here.
Yeah.
The best one of the show, for sure.
I vote for it.
Where are we at on the Hall of Fame?
And we've
This
lost
is
track.
2021, new year.
Yeah.
New year.
I'm not voting that into the Hall of Fame. Sorry, Jim.
Whoa, Jim.
It's an elite company. I'm sorry. We have like 5 in the history of the show, 400 episodes.
I wish we
right.
I wish we had a better track so we could really like look at
Like,
it.
you know how like the Yankees have retired like 30
You can't argue your lame point now. That's not what this is for.
Like the
Guys, if you want to be on the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN. Make sure to, if you follow us there, look for the scenario and then give your answers. And now I'm going to filibuster this episode until John can't get enough. Now back to you, John.
So the Yankees retired like
Oh my God.
35 numbers of players. So they're like running out of numbers to give players because they give like really good players. They retire their number. And it's too much.
Are you trying to say the Yankees are so good that they've retired so many
No,
numbers?
I'm saying they're too much with the ceremony and honoring numbers and stuff. And we
so
can't
you are
do that.
saying what Lacey just said.
No, that they're not too good, these players. The Yankees are saying that they're icons. and
I'm
they're
cutting
not.
this piece and putting it on social that John is saying that his players aren't as good as he says they are.
They're not. You shouldn't retire their numbers, as I'm going to say. All right. But Jim, that was great. You were the best one on this episode.
I love that he wraps that up with, Jim, you did a pretty good job.
He did a great job. Elite job.
Jim, I fought for you, Jim.
Hall of Fame? No. Well, James can vote. James can vote him in.
I don't want any part of this.
Sucks.
James
straight
doesn't.
up sucks.
This is exactly what we are. Lacey
Yeah.
says one thing, I say the other, and James goes, "I don't want to get involved."
Yeah.
That's,
I'm not good with confrontation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we want to thank everybody for listening and watching.
Especially Jim.
Yeah. Especially Jim. Jim, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube. Jim, make sure you go to StarWarsNewsNet.com for all of your Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. And Jim, if you want to pick up a t-shirt, go to teespring.com/stores/Resistance Broadcast. We have a lot of stuff there, like this shirt, Makes a Little Too Happen. Jim, I don't know what you have. Okay.
I have a Mando Fan Show shirt on.
Jim, you can get a Mando Fan Show Season 2 shirt. There's a lot of things that you can get involved with there. And of course, like Lacey said before, or James said before, I'm sorry, the Patreon to support us, go to patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast and sign up because we got a lot going on. We've been busy, but we are going to be doing the Last Jedi documentary. Look at me. commentary. We're not doing a documentary in The Last Jedi. We're doing a commentary in The Last Jedi, which is going to be our next one for that page, in addition to all the other stuff we're doing there. So we appreciate everyone for your current support. And if you've been thinking about signing up, $2 a month. 2021 is going to be a pretty interesting year, pretty big year, so we're really excited. So join us over there, support the pod, and get more content. And I have to say, our Discord server is pretty awesome. Pretty
always
damn awesome. Yeah. All right, so I think I covered everything, right, guys?
I think so.
Yeah. All right. Johnny Hoey on Twitter, StarWarsNewsNet.com. Just Like the Movies podcast if you like me talking about non-Star Wars stuff. Lacey.
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gilleran.
James Baney.
People can find me online on Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks.
And what on Tuesday you posted the Claudia Gray book discussion, right?
Yeah, this Tuesday we did a spoiler book discussion. It starts with a review, but eventually we get into the spoilers if you're interested in it. I don't know how many people have read the book, so you might not want to check that out. But if you haven't, if you don't plan to read the book at all, but you still want to know what happened, we do a special video that's called "What Happened in Into the Dark" by Claudia Gray. So you can get a spoiler-filled just synopsis, the story, the plot, what happened. No review, no personal opinions on it. This is the story. This is what happened, canon wise.
Oh, and we are at The Resistance Broadcast on Instagram. Forgot to mention that. Yeah, hit us up there. All right, that'll do it. We hope everyone has a glorious, wonderful weekend, especially Jim.
Yeah.
What's our word of the day?
I don't know. We're just sitting here now, so just pick a word.
All I can think is Jim-vitation. I don't know why that popped in my
I don't want
head.
to put Jim out there, though. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
How about Borgullet?
There you go.
Borgullet.
Do you or do you not like Borgullet?
Yeah. Do you like or do you not like Borgullet? That works. All right. Enjoy your weekends. We'll see you Monday morning right here on TRB. See you around, kids.